this fun book and we talk about different places in the world and learn a little. And if I've been to a place, I include a travel photo, and sometimes, rarely, but sometimes I will give a little tip or give some information on a place I've traveled. But let's get started. So here's where I had marked where we left off, and we had left off on number 200. I'm excited to go through 200 with you. We'll probably get to 250 in this video. We'll see. So let's move this bookmark out of the way and let's start turning some pages. Okay, so our first number is Island of Gorgie. Oh, another reminder, I'm so bad at pronouncing places. In nearly every language I mess it up, so bear with me and thank you. So Island of Gorgie, this is in Senegal, and it is a sand-swept, carless island, and it's off the coast of Dakar. So number 201 is Mont Saint Michael, and that's what's pictured here. Mont Saint Michael. It's an ancient pilgrimage in France. So it's in Normandy, and it's in Abbey Island. Kind of cool looking, in Abbey Island. So over here and pictured is 202, Blue Mountain National Park in Australia. The Blue Mountain National Park, it's pretty close to Sydney, and I actually have been there. This isn't a photo from the Blue Mountains, but it's on the way there. We made a train stop at this animal sanctuary. At an animal sanctuary, so this is a kangaroo and myself. So it wasn't on the way, or it was on the way to the national park, but this isn't in the national park. But I didn't take any pictures in the national park. It was actually raining when we went, and it was a really lovely train ride actually, and we went on a little hike, but it was pouring rain. But we did stop at an animal sanctuary along the way, and I got to feed a baby kangaroo. It was very cool. So at 203 we have Mozambique Island in Mozambique. It's tiny in size, powerful in presence, how they describe it. 204, which we have pictured below, is Chubby Dunes in Morocco. The wild red gold sand piles. They say it's a quintessential Sahara experience, and that does look like a scene from a movie. I wonder if that's where they filmed Dune. I love Dune and Dune 2, and I wonder. Okay, 205 is the historic center of San Gimignano. Italian I'm bad at. It's Italy's first skyscrapers. Oh, cool. So these towers are pretty historic and old. Should we read a little bit about it? Okay. One-upmanship is a core part of the human psyche. Some people like to get one-upped on the neighborhoods with the bigger car. In San Gimignano, it's all about towers. Over centuries of internecine squabbling, rival clans built ever taller towers in a bid to be the king of the Castello, leaving a garden of looming towers looking over this wheat-field-colored Tuscan town and rolling farmland. Interesting. So they were the local clans trying to outdo each last word and I'll be like, oh no. I promise I'm smart, guys. I just don't know every word. Okay. Here we have Vasamusset in Sweden. Vasamusset in Sweden. And it is a ship that's sunk and has been restored. Cool. 207, Port Merlion in Wales. Port Merlion in Wales. And I believe that's what's pictured here. It's colorful Italian-like buildings built by a Welsh architect who believed that beauty is a necessity. It's a beautiful area. 208 is Times Square, New York. Times Square, New York, which is, of course, iconic. I've been to Times Square multiple times. I don't think this is a photo on Times Square, but this was us heading to Times Square because we were going to a Broadway play that day. That day we saw Burn This, which is a play, and it was starring Adam Driver and Carrie Russell, and we got lottery tickets. So if you're in New York, you can put in a lottery ticket, and that's just like they'll give you very, very cheap tickets, kind of bad seats, but it's just kind of like luck. So we put in for the lottery, and I think we got like $10 tickets that day to see Burn This. It was wonderful. 209, Bashut Archipelago in the Philippines, with 7,107 islands to choose from. The challenge in the Philippines has always been which island to pick for the perfect mix of sand, palm, and coral. We'll make it easy for you. And they recommend this one. Okay. 210, Robben Island in South Africa. And this is the prison that Nelson Mandela was held at, which I believe now is a kind of museum situation. Let's see what it says. It says, visiting is a challenge but uplifting experience, a tour of the human spirit as much as some of the faded old buildings. Cool recommendation. 211 is, you're gonna try to make Iceland, I can't read this. Borgarfjord, Istari, and Seyðisfjörður. This is in Iceland, and I believe that's pictured here. And it is for fjord lovers. It's supposed to be a really beautiful part of the landscape. And there's a little tip. It says there's a car ferry for Denmark that can get you there. 212 is Sosofevila, mountains of sculpted sand in Nubia. It's in the Nabat Desert, which is the world's oldest and most mammoth dunes. Cool. 213 is the Wilecek salt mines in Poland. Oh, I saw some videos on this mine. It does look very cool. Let's read a little bit about it. Deep underground in this unusual museum, all of the artistic, architectural, and even spiritual treasures are fashioned from salt. It opened as a salt mine for more than 700 years, reaching depths of 327 meters. The mine has 287 kilometers of tunnel. It now includes a mining museum, sculptures, and a vast chapel hung with chandeliers, all made from salt. There's an underground lake and a subterranean thermal spa, too. The mine's microclimate supposedly has health benefits. Yeah, so they took this old salt mine and turned it into like an underground, I remember seeing the pictures of the chapel, and it was like, it just really cool looking. Okay, say it's a marine miracle. Obviously pictured here with all the little jellyfish, So it's, I guess, a saltwater lake that's landlocked, but there's tons of jellyfish who live there. And these islands in Palua is southwest of Hawaii. Okay. Figlandsparken in Oslo, Norway. It's sculptures pictured here. 217 is the Summer Palace. Beijing's splendid Summer Palace was a refreshing breeze for emperors and court holders. And I have been to the Summer Palace. I can't remember I think this is the Forbidden City. I don't remember, maybe, I can't remember exactly where this photo was taken, but I do remember on this trip we did go to the Summer Palace, and we actually got in the little pedal boats and pedaled across the little pond there. The Summer Palace was really beautiful, but I was in Beijing with my cousin and my brother, and what I remember about the Summer Palace is those two were really grinding my gears that day. They were being so obnoxious. So I just remember being mad at them at the Summer Palace. So I guess my travel tip here would be don't travel with two teenage boys. 218 is Old Quebec City in Canada. Which they say has fun walking tours. 219 is Canterbury Cathedral in England, the Church of England's historic home, and it's pictured here. This looks like maybe a what would you call this, a tomb? So the tip they mention is that it's €10.50 to enter unless you're attending a service. 220 is Carthage in Tunisia, Africa's ancient capital. So they recommend going to Carthage because of its historic significance. Ooh, two beautiful photos on these. I don't know anything about these two places, so we might read some. Reichstag, a tectonic shapeshifter. So they said this is in Germany. Let's read a little about it. You can see right across Berlin from the glass dome atop the Reichstag building, but beneath your feet is brick and mortar metaphor for the bumpy journey of the German nation. The neo-Baroque pile began sprouting on the banks of the Spree in 1884. Let's read ahead. Caught in the crosshairs of the Cold War, the Reichstag was on the seam of the east-west Berlin Wall, and in 1961 was closed by the erection of the Berlin Wall. When the wall fell, the building was redesigned, and now you can see the German government at work there. And their tip is admission to the rooftop terrace and dome is free, but you must register in advance. So, the historic German building that kind of has been through it a bit. Okay, 222, Virupaksha Temple. An ancient sacred skyscraper in India. Let's read about it. Not very long ago, Hampi's Virupaksha Temple, and bewitching ancient city ruins represented the sacred beating heart of an inhabited village, Hampi Bazaar. For better or worse, the Indian government served the locals with an eviction order, and now you'll find relative peace and quiet among the Dravidian skyscraper. It can be an unreal place to linger, amid a landscape marbled with giant boulders. Constant wonder ensures Virupaksha, Hampi's only working temple, is still the life and soul of the party. Its intricately carved gateway tower, which is only almost 50 meters high, is a superb example of the temple architecture so typical of southern India. Completed in 1442, these days it bows slightly under the weight of time and usage, but the thin veneer of grime only adds to its persona as the granddaddy of the Dravidian Empire, in the capital of the last great Hindu kingdom, of Vijayarja. Oh man. All who enter here are certain to be spellbound. Interesting. I'd not heard of this, and it's so beautiful, but it sounds a little fraught. Okay. Here we have 223 Malcon in Cuba. It's a road in Havana. And so that's pictured here. The ocean and the road. 224 is Bruna Point. Mystical prehistoric tombs in Ireland. So much like Stonehenge, kind of prehistoric, interesting bog stuff. I went to Ireland, but I didn't visit here. And they say visits are by tour only, and 75 tickets are sold a day. So you have to book early and go from Dublin. If I go back, maybe I'll try. 225 is Museo de Prado, Madrid's home to masterpieces. And I studied abroad in Madrid. So this is me on my way to the Prado. I love the museums in Madrid, the Prado and the Reina Sofia. I prefer the Reina Sofia to the Prado. The Prado is like the old school museum, right? It's a museum with all of the masters from the past, and the Reina Sofia is like the modern ones, who has like the Picassos and like the modern art exhibits. But the Prado is a huge, beautiful museum, so definitely recommend. Mostly I just recommend Madrid. I have a soft spot in my heart for Madrid. 226 Lago de Atilian in Guatemala, the heart of the Guatemalan Highlands. So this is a lake surrounded by volcanoes and dotted with Mayan villages. Cool. 227 Gunung Luser National Park in Indonesia. It's an orangutan island jungle. It's one of the few forests where there are wild orangutans pictured here. I think that would scare me. Anytime I've seen an orangutan in a museum, I think, oh, that animal could kill me. I don't know why, but that's how I feel about orangutans, more than almost any other animal. Maybe it's because they are so clearly so intelligent, and maybe I've only just seen them in zoos where I feel like they don't want to be there. But I'm glad there's still a jungle where they can be wild. 228 is Alcatraz in San Francisco, and I have been to Alcatraz, and I'm surprised I don't have a photo in here. I'm sure I have a photo in Alcatraz, maybe not, but Alcatraz is an island off San Francisco where they built a huge prison, and they sent people there so they couldn't escape. And there's like one big escape story that's fun. The island is cool because it has like the guided audio tour, and it tells you stories as you go through. I always appreciate those. Okay, 229 Palazzo de Campo, a medieval stage for a wild race in Siena, Italy. It's a beautiful photo. So it looks like some sort of horse race. Very interesting. It says Siena is 3.5 hours from Rome by bus, and the race is in July and August. 230 is pajama castle in Slovenia, a cave and castle combo. So there's a castle kind of wedged into a cliff, and it has a drawbridge and a dungeon and some treasures. And then just down the road is a huge cave. And so going to both of them, they said, is very cool. And their tip is, in July, the castle hosts a medieval games tournament. That does sound fun. 231 is Rila Monastery in Bulgaria, which is pictured here. So this is a monastery with beautiful mountain views and art. And 232 is Bund in China. It's a historic city promenade in China. We got a few. Okay, so 233 is Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. It's pictured here. And it's also pictured here. Here I am in front of a window in this museum. They say this is one of the most premier art museums. I would agree. It had a lot of Rembrandts, if I remember correctly. And there was some Van Goghs and other like iconic artists, even though I would say the Van Gogh Museum was just down the road. And I preferred the Van Gogh Museum, much like the Reina Sofia versus the Prado, the Rijksmuseum versus the Van Gogh. I'm on the Van Gogh side. But it was a really nice museum. 234 is Pont du Gard in France, which is a Roman engineering marvel, and it's pictured here. This really cool bridgeway. So it says here that it's twice as high as the one in Segovia, which I'm like obsessed with the one in Segovia, so that's super cool. Okay, and then 235 is Real Alcatraz in Sevilla, which is here, pictured here in Sevilla. So it's like a mix of Islamic and Christian architecture, and it's super beautiful, and there's interlocking like palaces and patios and gardens. One fun fact about visiting here is this is where they filmed some of the scenes in the Star Wars prequels, where they're filming Naboo. Yeah, where they're filming Naboo in like Queen Amidala. It's set in here, and you can spot it immediately. Like there's a couple places where you look and you're like, oh, I'm in Star Wars. Their tip, it's 2 hours from Madrid by train, but they say avoid midsummer high temperatures. And I would say yes, it gets very hot in southern Spain. I'm in a little coat, but that's because I'm visiting in January. 236. 236 is the Singapore Zoo. Let's read a little bit about it. Let's read. Due to an open enclosure concept offering animals humanely spacious habitats in a city not known for spacious habitats in general, Singapore Zoo might win your respect. 11 climate zones, from Arctic tundra to Australian outback, allow animals a natural setting. From aardvarks to zebras, they seem less stressed than most Singaporeans. Visit after dark when the zoo becomes a night safari, offering the chance to get up and close and personal with its nocturnal residents. Cool. Okay, 237, Wadi Rum in Jordan. Another place that I did visit but don't have a photograph specifically. I have photographs from Petra, but not from Wadi Rum. as we stopped there on our way to Petra. 238 is Luxor Temple in Egypt. I've never been to Egypt, but I imagine that the ancient temples would be very cool. Okay, we have the Natural History Museum in England. The London Natural History Museum manages to squeeze eons into formidable spaces. And here's a photo of me in London on my way to that museum on a rainy London day, caught off guard on camera. It's a funny photo to choose, but that's what I chose. 240 is Old Delhi in India. Old Delhi, which is a chaotic jumble of life, they describe it as. And then 241 is Cinque Terre in Italy, which is pictured here, which is a cliffside village steeped in history. I've heard this is beautiful. There are no cars. They were banned a decade ago. And they suggest that you get there by boat. I remember trying to figure out if I could get there by train in Italy, and it was like a little tricky. 242. Borospeder. Buddha's mega monument. So it's a large monument to Buddha in Indonesia. It's in Indonesia. Should we read about it? This is a beautiful photo. Let's read about it. If you've seen any travel images of Indonesia, you probably already know what Budapest looks like. Along with Angkor Wat in Cambodia and Bagan in Myanmar, Java's colossal Buddhist temple complex makes the rest of Southeast Asia's spectacular sights seem almost incidental. The monument's tiered quadrant of bell-like structures has survived volcano eruptions, terrace bombs, earthquakes, and remains as beautiful as it must have been 1,200 years ago. Do you like that? I'm just skipping words I can't pronounce out loud anymore. Let's keep reading. While 432 Buddha images sit contemplatively in the chamber on the terrace, locals call the sites surrounding countrysides the Garden of Java. So supremely beautiful is the landscape of green rice fields and traditional rice growing, all overlooking soaring volcanic peaks. It can hold you entranced for a day or two. Interesting. This does look like beautiful landscape. 243 Bosque Nubos Monteverde in Costa Rica. This is described as cloud cuckoo land, and it's photographed here, and it's the first national park of Costa Rica on the list. Or no, it's the pair of the first one from earlier. I was gonna say, I thought we talked about one. So it pairs with the other one, and it's a beautiful forest. It's very green. 244 Parque Nacional Manuel Antonio in Costa Rica, another Costa Rican park. And this one is the country's tiniest national park, only 20 square kilometers. But they say it's beautiful rainforest with birds and monkeys. 245 Milan's Duomo in Italy. It's a building that took 600 years to complete. I've been to Italy a few times, but I've never actually been to Milan. 246 is the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. A potent symbol of power. It's the world's highest observation deck. I do feel that this building is so tall that it would make me quite ill to stand and look out it. One time when I was in Tokyo, I stood at this tall overlook and looked over the city, and it was city for as far as I could see, and it genuinely made me nauseous. Just the scope of it all. So I think I would skip this unless I was ready for an existential crisis. 247, the Deshenate Mosque in Mali. A mosque in Mali. And that's photographed here. 4,000 locals volunteer there. Okay, this will be our last page. 248, Naoshima in Japan. It's a tiny, tranquil island in Japan. 249, Tajik National Park, Dagestan. It's a sparsely populated wilderness. 250 is Silfra in Iceland, and it's where the continents divide. They recommend diving and snorkeling there. Oh, I think that's photographed here. So it's a school underwater divide where you could snorkel. 251, Bwitini Impenetrable National Park in Uganda. It says it's home to more than half of the world's surviving mountain gorillas. Wow. Photographed here. 252, La Citadelle La Fière in Haiti. It's a battleship-like citadel that they think is really underrated. And then 253, the Gallipoli Cemetery is in Turkey, which is a memorial of war. And in particular, it's remembrance of a World War I battle that took place there. So, that's where we're going to end today. We looked through another 50, well, you got some extra ones, 53 locations. And I feel like I learned about some new places. So that was fun. Thank you for joining me. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next part. We're moving slowly through this book. It's going to take us a while, but I'm really enjoying it. And I hope you're enjoying it too. And, the purpose of my videos is just to be a diversion, to divert your thoughts from life to something fun and relaxing, like travel, to give you something new to think about. And I hope you enjoy it, because you deserve